Well, I think if we look at their situation or predicament, there are a number of reasons for them to cooperate, or there are gains to be achieved for both of them. They are both revisionist states. They have grievances against the international system, or the West, that they call it. Kim said they will fight against Western imperialism and so forth. But we look at the asks or the needs, their wish lists, and there seems to be an asymmetry. So everyone in the media is talking about artillery shells or conventional munitions in exchange for satellite technology or nuclear technology, submarine technology. But a lot of people are skeptical because they ask, how is North Korea going to pay for this? What is in it for Russia? So I think there are a lot of possible intangibles, things that North Korea could provide, such as methods and means for evading sanctions and export controls, running illicit smuggling networks, cybercrime, these types of things. So I think they are looking at these other possibilities for cooperation, and we shouldn't underestimate the possibilities.
That is very interesting, Dan, because people are really just talking about sort of weapons for food, weapons for support in satellite technology, but that suggests something far murkier.
Right. So, and it was interesting, the optics of the meeting, because Putin often makes people wait. It's kind of like in a heavyweight boxing championship, playing this psychological game. Putin showed up and Kim made him wait for 30 minutes. So that makes Putin look more desperate. So this is kind of a puzzle, and people are thinking, what is North Korea providing and what could Russia get out of this? So I think there's possibly some other deeper areas of potential cooperation. As I said, establishing illicit networks, alternative supply chains, and so forth. Korea's been operating as a pariah state for decades. Russia's entering this status more recently, of course. So there are those dark underground areas where they might cooperate.
Yeah, that is really interesting. To your point, it's almost humiliating for Putin. He's been kept waiting. He's now going to go and visit North Korea. How unusual would that be?
Yeah, well, I think for, international support, he's running out of partners, right? So even with North Korea, Kim can provide some kind of international political support, some support in international diplomatic circles, but that's very limited, of course. That doesn't give them very much. Russia's a permanent Security Council member in the UN. They can veto sanctions and so forth. So as far as, psychological support, political support, it's not worth very much, I think, to Russia. So why he's going there, I think it's part of this bigger plan for Putin to build this alternative international system or international order. He's, trying to pick off these pariah states who want to move away from the US dollar, the international financial system, human rights, institutions that support peaceful settlements of disputes, all of those things. The international security architecture, all of those things they have grievances about, and they want to ruin it or displace it. But I think they don't really have a positive alternative.
Regional stability is of course paramount. How might an alliance like this destabilize the region?
Well, a lot of things, Russia could do. They talk about space cooperation. For example, North Korea is trying to launch a reconnaissance satellite to get one satellite. Russia has many satellites. They were the first spacefaring nation with Sputnik back in 1957. So they could provide information or provide data, for example, tracking data to provide North Korea with information with the U.S. moving military assets, let's say, to the region for military exercises, which Australia also participates in as well. Or if it's a conflict, we move to a conflict period. They could provide that data, that targeting data, for example. Russia has in space and air platforms. North Korea has threatened to shoot down U.S. reconnaissance planes in international airspace. So if Russia has that greater, over the horizon, collection capability, if they were to provide that to the North Koreans, maybe they could possibly act on it and shoot down a reconnaissance aircraft, for example. So there are a lot of possible, dangerous scenarios.
Yeah. How much of a problem is it that the US is, trying to talk to North Korea, but they are just simply running into a wall of silence?
Well, I think there are some ways to project or to send messages and signals so that to reassure North Korea that the U.S. and its allies has no intention of attacking North Korea or invading North Korea. So they can communicate. There are channels to do that. But as far as striking any kind of mutual agreement or diplomatic agreement where there's mutual benefits, I just don't see any bargaining space for that. What would the talks be about? It's very difficult to say. For the military mechanism at the joint security area up on the DMZ, they can have military talks. They can talk at the UN. There are other ways to get messages through. But unless there's something to bargain over, I don't know what you would talk about.
Yeah, especially when you've got some newfound friends. Dan, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to see you again, too.